Greetings, everybody. Welcome to this emergency edition of Asafo Academic. We are quasi live on the Nile River, and I want to help teach people visually. So, we're going to use Google Maps. What you could do right now is open up Google Maps and follow along with me. So, pause it now and open up Google Maps if you're on the computer, or even if you're on your phone. Might be a little bit more difficult, but you could put it on Google Maps there and follow along on the phone as well too. But that's just an option, just put a little split screen here and there. But anyways, we're gonna get right into it. I already plotted quite a few places already, so we're just gonna start from the beginning. I don't want to go too far back, but I do want to show that we are in Egypt. We are starting in Egypt next to Alexandria, right? And a distance away is the Gaza, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, okay? So it's connected, but we're gonna get started and we're gonna go. So I've just been plotting places that are completely random, to be honest, because I really don't have time to kind of be like, sightseeing a little bit. But I've already plotted quite a few places on the journey already. And once I get back to that point, because the plotted places have this light blue with the square inside, so that means I already saved it. I have a list called Nile River Plot, so I'm gonna make that public for everybody to see and add to themselves if there's any if anybody has any knowledge of pyramids and that sort of stuff. Very much free to add into the plot based off of the Nile River, essentially. So this is for research purposes. So you can see there's another little stream beside, going along. The reason why I'm doing this, I'm saying it's an emergency, is because there are people out there getting more aggressive with the messaging, the counter propaganda messaging. They don't want Egypt to be an African, they don't want Egypt to be part of African civilization. And they say, oh, you're sub-Saharan. Okay, see about that. We shall see. I don't know about that, but we go back to the original Nasir, late Nasir. Now we'll just continue along. Oh, so we get to Sudan, Egypt. Look how they expressively say Sudan, Egypt. So interesting. Oh, let's continue along. Lake Nubia, Sudan, Egypt. So Sudan, Egypt connected to Egypt is separate from Egypt. Okay. We'll just continue along now. It looks like commerce. Well, it's a historical landmark. I don't know. It looks like well, regular Google landmarks, I should say, are popping up again. So we are now back to the regularly scheduled program, the Nile. So it looks like it splits off to another body of water. Now we get into a part actually where it's called the White Nile and the Blue Nile. So you hit a critical point. Hit a very critical point. So now it's going to split off into the White Nile and the Blue Nile. So you have to go one direction and then come back to this point to continue the journey on the other direction. But this is the White Nile and this is the Blue Nile now. And we'll see what the difference is. I'm just plotting like crazy now. Now it feels like all the action I've been anticipating is finally here. I've been patiently waiting, plotting, shaking and baking. Like boom. Okay, so I'm gonna go on the Blue Nile first. Oh man. You don't know the happiness I'm feeling now. We're at the Blue and the White Nile. You know, it's like those fork in the road scenarios. Okay, so we're on the Blue Nile River. On the Blue Nile. Where will we go? See mosque. Continue on. We got an island again. Very interesting what I see here. Got an island. Church. Yikes, grave. And then, oh, it's a monastery. So now it looks like there's no Islamic presence, and we've hit a dead end. We've hit a dead end into the Blue Nile. This is it, folks. This is it. This is it. This is the anticipation I've been waiting for. The conclusion, folks. So we hit Lake Tana. Interesting. Okay. So can we zoom back out and get the path? Yeah. Looks like we can. Yeah, this is the Blue Nile. If we go back. Yep, this is the body of water. So the Blue Nile. Okay, so zoom back. Okay, so here we get back to the checkpoint. We've exhausted the Blue Nile. It ends in Ethiopia. So we can see that the Nile River is much more than an Egyptian river. We've hit the dead end to the Blue Nile. Now we'll continue on with the White Nile. Man, it feels like starting all over again. A new journey within the journey. Something like that. But anyways, very interesting seeing the cultural difference. Oh, it looks like we're back in the Islamic Arabic territory. Ethiopia was more Christian, and we've seen the frequency of churches compared to mosques. But I'm guessing we are in Sudan, Egypt still. Continuing on. Continuing on. Sudan, Egypt. So we ended up in Ethiopia with the Blue Nile, the fork in the road. Okay, it looks like we got a split, but also hit a body of water. Victoria Nile. So now this is splitting off. We got I think this is a significant split. So now they're calling this the Victoria Nile. I think like the Blue Nile, gotta exhaust this. Yep. Maybe we could zoom out, see how far. Victoria Nile, yep. Victoria Nile. So dead end, dead end, dead end. And it's just churches out here. It's just churches. It's very interesting to see the spiritual change just going through. It's just pure churches here. It says there's a church here. There's a university here. There's actually a college. So yeah, university and college, but it's just mainly is pure churches. St. Peter Church, St. Luke Church, Pentecostal, Roman Catholic, Pentecostal, Roman Catholic, Seventh-day Adventist, Church of Uganda, Church of Uganda. I just feel like plotting every single one of these right here. I feel like it's very what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know what I want to say, but I think there's been quite a change in pattern if you really think about it. But still on the Victorian Nile, it breaks up into several or a few, whoops, breaks up into a few different streams, but it breaks up into a few different streams, but they end up into dead ends. And the Victoria Nile, why are there so many churches? I mean, how can this many churches operate? Don't they need to, I guess they could grow their own food and stuff, but man, like where's everything else? Where's the hospitals? Okay, I see a hospital, but damn. Is this a dead end? Yep, it looks like a dead end. So the Victoria Nile is a dead end, like the Blue Nile. A lot of churches all over the place. Interesting, I guess, change of events. We have one mosque. Is this a real mosque? We have another mosque here. I don't know if they're real mosques. Maybe these aren't churches at the same time too. Because I'm not sure if I've seen many pictures. I'll be able to get pictures in this area. But then who's plotting this? Okay, so recap. So we're in Uganda now, and went up the Victoria Nile rabbit hole. Ended up in, what's this place? Lake Kwania. Ended up in Lake Kwania, which is a dead end. A dead end! So we're going back to Victoria Nile. This is the split. Lake Albert. We're in Lake Albert now. And notice the names as well too, like Alberts, Victoria. So now we've gone from Arabic, and then from Ethiopia we got the more the Ethiopian dialects, and then the Arabic slowly winded out, the Islamic slowly winded out, and now we got the Christian, we got the Victoria Nile, we got Lake Albert. We are still in Africa, folks. Don't get it confused. We are not in Europe. We are in Uganda now. We've seen the heavy influence of churches, and now we're seeing Lake Albert connected to the Nile. Imagine. Okay, so Lake Kowani and Lake Kyoga is the same thing, but from the Victoria Nile, I thought it was a dead end. Here, here, just to recap, over here doesn't go anywhere, but down here on this cluster, it goes all the way. Let's get some plots going. We can still see the church influence. We still got mosques, but still churches and mosques and churches. Right, so Victoria Nile, part of the Nile River. This is all one river, no matter the different names, right? So we hit a body of water. Hit a body of water. Looks like a major city, Kampala. Hit a major city in Uganda, because it's showing us everything. So we're in Uganda now. And this is Lake Victoria. So the Victoria Nile essentially goes into Lake Victoria. Very interesting. This is the end, folks. We hit Rwanda, Burundi, went into Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya as well too. Kenya as well, and look here, we have the Democratic Republic of Congo. Okay, so this is even like a geography lesson as well too. So look where the body of water ends, and then you have all these different countries surrounding it, but it all goes through Uganda. So now we're gonna zoom out. Okay, let me get the list here, or I guess we can't really see it, but okay, so this is, I guess, the farthest to get the trail. So beside Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, we even got Cyprus here. The Nile River begins in Egypt, goes through Egypt, going a little bit closer. right? Now we're in South Sudan. Now we're in between Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda. In the heart of Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo is just on the other side. I wish you could show all the way or just keep it or something. 291 places.
No, they were dark skinned,
but they were not black.
But they are not Negro.
Fucking lied!
The Nile River. Africa. Not Egypt. Africa, as we've just seen, as I've just demonstrated visually. So Nile River, the longest river in the world, called the father of African rivers. It rises south of the equator and flows northward through northwestern Africa to drain into the Mediterranean Sea. It has a length of about 4,132 miles and drains an area estimated at 1.2 million square miles. Its basin includes parts of Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Sudan, and the cultivated part of Egypt. The cultivated part of Egypt. Its most distant source is the Kagera River in Burundi. The Nile is formatted by three principal streams: the Blue and the Atbara, which flow from the highlands of Ethiopia, and the White Nile, head streams of which flow into lakes Victoria and Alberta, as we've seen. The name Nile is derived from the Greek Nilios, which probably originated from the Semitic root Nahal, meaning a valley or a river, and hence, by an extension of the meaning, a river. The fact that the Nile, unlike other great rivers known to them, flowed from the south northward and was in flood at the warmest time of the year was an unsolved mystery to the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks. The ancient Egyptians called the river Ar, or Ar, Coptic, black, in allusion to the color of the sediments carried by the river when it is in flood. Now mud is black, enough to have given the land itself its oldest name, Kem, or Kemi, which also means black, and signifies the darkness. So I want to introduce the Ishango Bone. Okay, the Ishango Bone is a bone tool dated to the upper Paleolithic era, about 18,000 to 20,000 BC. So that means it is 20,000 to 22,000 years ago from today. It is a dark brown length of bone with a sharp piece of quartz affixed to one end, perhaps for engraving or writing. But what is it about this bone? This was discovered in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But let's not get too ahead. Let me just pull up the tabs because this is just, a Google page. We gotta dig deeper. So it is a bone. It's basically from the same part. The Ishango bone was found in 1950 by Belgian Jean de something while exploring what was the Belgian Congo. It was discovered in the African area of Ishango, which was centered near the headwaters of the Nile River at Lake Edward. This is 20,000 to 22,000 years ago from today in Africa of the Nile River at Lake Edward. So let's actually go back. Lake Victoria, Lake Albert. Did I pass it? Lake Albert, here, Lake Edward. Here's Lake Edward, right? Lake Edward is part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But look where it's situated. The Ishango Bone was found. It was found near Lake Victoria, Lake Albert. This was found near, essentially, the Nile River. And for Egyptians to think that Africans weren't traveling along bodies of water just for general travel, for exploration, thousands of years before anybody else even got to the continent is just ludicrous. So let's go back to the Ishango Bone. So the Ishango Bone is a mathematical calculator. It was also had quartz at the end to do writing for engraving, but it was also a calculator, as we could see. Mathematical calculations. The three columns of asymmetrical grouped notches implied that the implement was more functional than decorative. The Ishango grouping may have been used to construct a number system. The central column begins with 3 notches and then doubles to 6 notches. The process is repeated for the number 4, which doubles to 8 notches, and then reversed for the number 10, which is halved to 5 notches. These numbers then are not purely random and instead suggest some understanding of the principle of multiplication and division by 2. The bone may therefore have been used as a counting tool for simple mathematical procedures. Furthermore, the number of notches on either side of the central column may indicate more counting prowess. The numbers on both the left and the right column are all odd numbers: 9, 11, 13, 17, 19, and 21. The numbers in the left column are all of the prime numbers between 10 and 20, which form a prime quadruplet, while those in the right column consist of 10 plus 1, 10 minus 1, 20 divided by 1, and 20 minus 1. These numbers on each side column add up to 60, with the numbers in the central column adding up to 48. Both of those numbers are multiples of 12, again suggesting an understanding of multiplication and division. 20,000 to 22,000 years ago in Africa, mathematics was understood. Maybe not at a great grand level as we understood now, but this was the beginning of mathematics in Africa. To even suggest that there was a sense of mathematics in Africa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the heart of Africa, is literally the heart of Africa, and to think that they were not smart enough to travel up bodies of water to see where they led to as explorers, hunter-gatherers. Let's continue on, because how do we even really know that this Ishango Bone is real and legit? How do we know? How can we be so sure? Well, I'm going to pull up the next tab. I'm going to break it all down. This is the next tab. Most histories of mathematics devote only a few pages to ancient Egypt and Northern Africa during the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, right? So generally they ignore the history of mathematics in Africa south of the Sahara, and give the impression that this history either did not exist or at least is not knowledge or knowable, traceable, or stronger still, that there were no mathematics at all south of the Sahara. In history, to Europeans, even the Africanity of Egyptian mathematics is often denied or suffers Eurocentric views of conceptuous of both history and mathematics from the basis of such views. High in the mountains of central equatorial Africa, on the borders of Uganda and Zaire, lies Lake Edward, a source of the Nile. It is a small lake, about 30 miles by 60 miles. Through the area is sparsely populated today. Approximately 25,000 years ago, by the shores of the lake lived a small community that fished, gathered, and grew crops. Isn't this what exactly I've been saying about Africans traveling along bodies of water? That was how the whole, that's how, I really want to get into it. I can't give all the information, but traveling was essential to find resources, especially for hunter-gatherers. They would have their homes, but they'll have ways to travel and ways to get back home. So, the settlement is this only a few hundred years before, buried in a volcanic eruption. The place where the remains were found were the Ishango Bone. The Ishango Bone is the oldest table of prime numbers. And these are more pictures of the Ishango Bone, and they are carvings, ports on the ends to do writing, engraving. It's literally a it's a pen and a calculator. A very simple calculator, but calculator nonetheless. This is the last thing I want to highlight. So we see all the contributions of mathematics, right? We got the Renaissance period. And then it looks like we got a bit of Islamic influence, Asian influence over here. Then we got the Greek influence. Looks like we got more Greek influence in terms of mathematics. Then we got the ancient influence before the Greeks. We got the Bronze Age, right? We got these different counters, and then we got the Ishango Bone at the very beginning, near the Nile River. It's very simple. It's not a very hard concept to understand. Africans were actually doing things. They had a sense of economy. They had a sense of resources. Very simple, very simple. But I think that's it. Let's see the time at 2 hours now. 2 hours for this entire presentation. I'm going to have a raw version. I'm also going to have a sped up version with all the conclusions. But that's it for this video. I mean, what more do I have to say? What more do I have to say? Well, this is all I'm going to say. The Nile River is not an Egyptian river. It is an African river. Peace out to the next episode.